Sakamoto Days, aka Anime John Wick III, is obviously the most highly anticipated new show of the season, given that it's based on a popular manga and is the one new shonen action series of the season. The story unsurprisingly centers around one Taro Sakamoto, a famous assassin well renowned for being the best of the best, except that one day he falls head over heels in love with a convenience store cashier instantly, and eventually has to stop the killing when the blood money becomes too much for his wife to bear and nearly unalives herself, teaching him the lesson that everyone he kills also has someone who they care about the way that he cares about her. At this point, she lays down the law, establishing a set of family rules that starts with no killing whatsoever. Some years later, they are now the proud parents of this adorably wholesome daughter and the owners of a family convenience store. Also, Sakamoto has become a big portly teddy bear, who while completely out of shape, still somehow has the skills to whoop pretty much anyone that comes his way without killing, in comedic fashion of course. Sakamoto sort of defies logic in this way, but one day, his dark past and his connections to the Yakuza begin slowly catching up to him, as he of course cannot be allowed to leave such an organization and live. And shenanigans ensue, as their family convenience store grows one new member at a time, with each new sympathetic person that gets caught up in the action, or saved in the crossfire. The first of these is Shin Asakura, mind reader, fellow would-be assassin, and Sakamoto's old partner who looked up to him with intense respect. The second is Lu Zhaotong, the daughter of a triad family and now an orphan under the constant hunt of her family's enemies, who seek the wealth they left to her and revenge for her family's previous actions. I won't go into a bunch of spoilers about their introduction episodes, but ultimately their dynamic so far is quite hilarious. Shin takes his work under the Sakamoto family quite seriously, with an eye for perfection in the store's operations, while Lu is frankly either a downright idiot or just doesn't care. While Shin tries so hard to impress Sakamoto, he finds himself bombarded by an onslaught of Sakamoto constantly fantasizing about all of the ways that he could kill Shin when he fails to properly uphold the spirit of the Sakamoto family rules, which of course starts with not killing people. Shin of course does not seem to think that Sakamoto fully appreciates the irony in these knee-jerk murder fantasies. It's hilarious. Just as funny is what I expect will be a running gag of him receiving the most insignificant old man injuries in his fights, followed by Shin patching him up with small band-aids and heat compress pads. And let me just say that after watching 3 episodes now, I find that the show not only continues to get funnier, iterating on its running gags brilliantly and hilariously, but also quickly adding great new ones, such as their mission to ensure that the Sakamoto family has a good day off, even with all those assassins after them. This feels like it could also be a recurring theme. Now, this one seems to be a bit controversial amongst some for its visuals. The manga is an incredibly popular shonen after all, and unfortunately today that means that everyone automatically expects it to look like Demon Slayer or JJK or something. Now, I don't like calling modern anime fans spoiled, as just as many, myself included probably, seem to happily wave away issues that are clear as day in my opinion, but it is true. Many modern anime fans are definitely spoiled on a whole new level. Now, this animation is not going to spawn another one of those insert new anime sets a new standard videos, but this is not a real problem, and this is not a realistic standard. Frankly, I wouldn't say that the direction, the framing, or clever cuts from one subject to another really blew me away at any point, but the show does look fairly bombastic and dynamic during the moments where it needs to, and much of the art and animation just looks, well, funny, which perfectly suits the comedy and the ridiculous tone of the show. I love the faces these characters make, even when they look a little wonky. I also just love the visual texture of the show. It's not like film grain, it's more like this granite-like texture overlay that gets applied to different surfaces and materials at different levels. The show has style, and I actually quite like the aesthetic we wound up getting. Will the fight scenes blow you away with constant dynamic action? No, but it's dynamic enough. There's plenty of camera movement, and it's still hilarious watching Sakamoto deflect bullets with cough drops, catch them with chopsticks, and beat people unconscious with food and kitchen appliances like he's Jackie Chan or something. Ultimately, I feel that the studio has, instead of blowing its load early, committed to a standard that is actually sustainable, which I would actually say is more reassuring than anything. A theory which I think, at least so far, holds up, after seeing some of the show's best cuts yet in episode 3. But anyway, let's not speculate too much on long-term animation quality. I just think that pacing out the big dynamic action cuts is often much better than jamming the first 2 episodes full of said cuts, and then taking a sharp dive into the dreaded Sakuga slump, or winding up with unfinished episodes with wonky compositing issues and stuff later on, when it wasn't necessary for it to be that way. Not every show needs to be JJK, or Demon Slayer, or Chainsaw Man, or Dandadan, and the vast majority of productions should not try to be, or be expected to meet that so-called standard. We are beyond spoiled for expecting such things so often, and furthermore, compelling art style and direction is really more important anyway. And frankly, most of this show just unironically looks really good so far, but anyway. Another thing I'm really loving is the music. The slow chugging but catchy OP, Run Sakamoto Run, makes me feel a bit like headbanging, with the same sounds as those classic alternative and psychedelic rock bangers that I grew up listening to. The ED, Futsu, is ironically for an ED even more upbeat than the OP, but is ultimately more of an emotional pure vibes kind of banger. They both do a really great job of inducing that instant sense of classic anime nostalgia vibes that makes me feel like I'm watching a 2000s show again. But just as much if not more, the soundtrack itself has already shown a ton of variety, with my favorite contributions so far being all the chill, groovy jazz-influenced lo-fi hip-hop type beats.
I'm gonna come.
Anyway, so far this show is hilarious, and wholesome with a side of deadly occasionally, which actually leaves me wondering if we're going to end up getting both ends of the spectrum in the long run. We definitely got some very dark humor in episode 3, and the flashbacks themselves also point to this, but that's total speculation otherwise. I have embarrassingly not checked out the manga yet, even though I've heard from so many reliable sources that it is in fact great. But at the very least, that tells us that the series has legs to stand on, as it currently sits at 197 chapters, or days, and remains very popular in circles online. But anyway, let's not ramble on as if I actually have anything else to say yet. The show is good, and you're probably already watching it. If you're not, you should start watching it. You should also let me know which new shows you'd most like to hear my first impressions on. Preferably not like 90% of the isekai coming out now, but I guess whatever has demand. I'm already working on putting some of those together, but prioritization is a difficult thing for me sometimes. Anyway, like, subscribe, and stay frosty. Peace.
Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday is said tomorrow, so just do it. Make your dreams come true.